All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Finally got through with the back end of this 37. As you can see, I've got everything, the rear fender's bolted up, got the rear panel welded in, everything's been ground down and finished off with 120 on the DA. So starting off on the back end of the car, you know, obviously we had the original rear body panel, which had two cut throughs in it where the original bumper brackets would come through, but we wanted to eliminate those. But as I got through stripping everything down, realized we had a few rust issues going on with the outer panel, and so I decided to go ahead and cut the outer panel off so that I could just make a new piece to go and fill in everything, to cover up where the bumper slots were, just to eliminate all that and try to eliminate a lot of dents and damage along the way. Now, when doing that, I also decided I'd go through and redo where the lead seams were. I wanted to eliminate the lead seams in the body. So while I had easy access behind those areas, I went ahead and made two pieces to eliminate the lead seams, get that taken care of before we finished off the rear body. But then as we went along, you know, we were going to be just replacing that outer section, but I knew we had a little bit of damage underneath, mainly some rust holes. You can see I've got the old outer panel, or the old inner panel here. You can see the rust, that hole that was on the one side, along with a lot of like fiberglass filler that's along here that somebody tried to kind of patch everything up. You can see another hole on this side where they were trying to patch that up. So I just decided to go ahead and actually make some new pieces for the inside. I wasn't going to do it exactly the same way that the original inside was. I wanted to just kind of keep it simple. We don't have anything going back there. There's really no need for it to be exactly the same way. So what I did was kind of cut everything off in kind of a flat plane, where all the damage was, and then I made a new basically a new flat piece to go into the bottom of the trunk floor there, and to fill that major the major kind of horizontal section, I guess you'd say, to replace that area and to have a nice new panel in there. And then for the outside, the outer lower, or the inner lower outer panel, whatever you want to call it, I had to make a panel in a similar fashion to the way we made that exterior skin. I had to go through with the English wheel and kind of work it a little bit and get some shape into it. So it was very similar in shape to the outside, but was way different than what the original inside piece was. But like I say, we were kind of custom doing some things back there. It wasn't a big deal. We don't need everything to be exactly the same way it was in the factory. So I just made it in the simplest manner that I could. Fixed all that stuff up, got as much rust and everything out of there. Went through in there and actually put down some of that HP 770 epoxy primer to go ahead and make sure all that stuff is coated. You know, I even coated the inside of the new rear skin so that all that would be taken care of, since we're not going to have access to that anymore. The inner and outer panels, they don't, you know, they don't touch each other, but there's very little space between them, so you weren't never going to get back in there and really make sure you could coat them real well. So I went ahead and, just like I said, made some primer on all that stuff, or put some primer on all that stuff, so that I wouldn't have to worry about it again. Any bare metal that I did have to do some welding and work on, I either went through and treated it with some OSFO to treat that that rust and turn it into, you know, that phosphate coating or whatever it does. And then we also were using the U-pole copper weld primer. That way everything is guys' best opportunity to not have corrosion in the future again. Now we're going to go through a lot of these cracks and crevices with some of the internal kind of spray stuff that you can get. Several companies make it, kind of stuff with a nozzle and a wand and a tube on it, so you can get deep down in a crevice and actually get some sort of primer or corrosion resistance in there to help make sure this thing never rusts and rots out again. Now on the exterior panel there, you know, we did have to do quite a bit of work in the English wheel. I went through, you know, took that English wheel, instead of using that upper band that I've used before, I actually bought a rubber caster wheel to be able to create that shape that I needed initially to create this panel. And then we went through and wheeled it, you know, in a traditional style English wheel, you know, to bring the shape about like we needed, because this shape, you know, it obviously it has a curve, basically, let's say two directional curve, I guess. So it you know, curves around from left to right, as well as curves from top to bottom. And then again, of course, on the very bottom, you know, we have that lip that curves around to create the flange. So we did have to do quite a bit of work to make that panel originally, but like I say, as we went through, you know, we got the outside done, and then we just, before we put everything on, we needed to fix everything on the inside. So now that that's done, I went through, like I say, welded the outside panel on. In the process of welding that on, I had went ahead and welded the side pieces to it, and I kind of realized that was a mistake on my part as I was working this thing, working on getting it in there and getting it welded up. So I did have to go through and make some new side pieces to weld on, but that wasn't a big deal. It was pretty simple to take care of that. You know, I already had everything else welded in. You know, we TIG welded all the way around the top there where we fitted it, so we would have little, you know, minimal warpage to deal with, and we also had some easy access in there to actually get in there and do a little hammering on it to make sure everything is straight. It's not 100% perfect. I'm not the perfect metal man in the world, but it is really, really good. Minimal amount of filler to take care of any little lows that are there, mainly where it got welded along the edge, and most of the stuff is there's a few things that are inaccessible to be able to work on. So did the best I could, but like I say, I'm not no super metal man. This is, obviously we're going to be painting this thing. There's going to be filler all over this car in lots of places, so it's not a big deal. But everything does fit. We've got the fenders on. Everything fits the shape real nice. Now I do believe there is something that goes between here. I know there is a long hair, kind of like a gasket. So I'm not too worried about the fit right now. The fenders do stick up a little higher than the body, but they do the same thing on both sides. So I'm pretty positive it is not a body issue. It is a fender issue that we will have to kind of address. This fender here, you probably saw me taking some of these dents out in one of my other videos when I made that portable planishing hammer. There's also quite a bit of damage right along this area. So it could be contributing to the way this thing doesn't fit well. There's actually a tear right there. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of work, but the majority of it fits real nice on both sides. You know, this fender here, I don't know if there's any work underneath it or not. Somebody painted it, but I don't believe it was ever on a car. I think they just painted it for just look at the color and just to paint something. So we've got a little bit of work to do, but at least that is taken care of now. We can move on to something else. So next up, we've got the deck lids got to go on. We're going to eliminate the original hinge holes. The original hinges were on the exterior of the car. We're going to be going on the inside of the car. I've already got some brackets laser cut out here that we will be creating our new hinges for the inside. We've got the deck lid here that we're going to actually have to separate the inside and the outside so we can get everything nice and clean. We're going to be adding in a recessed license plate. So there's quite a bit of work to come on just that deck lid, but thankfully we've got this part done now, and we can move on to that deck lid and keep moving. So I'm going to go ahead and just wipe this thing down with some WD-40. That way it can stay like it is. I'm not going to prime it yet till we get a little bit more done. So if you enjoy the content, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and tap that bell. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if there's anything I can help you with. You know, if you see something that perhaps you could help me with, let me know in the comments. I would appreciate it. So hopefully you learned a little something. If you did, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and tap that bell, and I'll catch you on the next one.